The 9-foot alien priestess sneered at the thought of bonding with a human until she found herself carrying his child. A ferocious ion storm tore across the jagged obsidian tundra, its violet arcs of lightning scorching the sensors of Elias Voss's battered recon skiff. The craft's hull groaned as he wrestled the manual controls, his augmented left eye flickering with static from the planet's erratic magnetic surges. "Come on, you junk heap," he snarled, his scarred hands gripping the yoke. The skiff's systems were frying one by one, overwhelmed by the alien world's interference. The ground loomed, a glittering black expanse of razor-sharp stone and glowing crystal veins. The last thruster coughed, then died, leaving only the scream of wind and the crackle of electricity. Impact. The crash slammed Elias against his restraints, a sharp pain lancing through his ribs as blood trickled from a gash on his temple. When the world stopped spinning, he hung at an awkward angle, the cracked canopy revealing a storm-lashed tundra inches from his face. "Well, that sucked," he muttered, unbuckling and dropping to the slanted deck. A quick check showed his field kit intact, including his synaptic exosuit, a lightweight neural-linked rig of human design that could keep him alive in this nightmare. Elias suited up, visor retracted to conserve power, and stepped into the chaos. The air stung with ozone and the obsidian crunched under his boots, reflecting the storm's eerie glow. His HUD pegged the temperature at degree C, the ionic surges making it feel like a live wire against his skin. "Distress call, this is Elias Voss, xenobiologist of the TSS Pathfinder. Anyone out there?" he broadcast, voice steady despite the howling static. Silence. A flicker of movement caught his augmented eye, a shimmer of gold against the black landscape. He spun, hand snapping to his neural stunner, but saw only swaying crystal spires. Shelter was critical, the skiff's power cells were slag, and his suit's reserves wouldn't last a week in this hell. Scans pinged a massive cave network 3 km southwest, a potential haven from the storm. As he trudged through the slicing wind, the sense of being watched gnawed at him. Years of studying alien ecosystems had sharpened his instincts. A sharp crack of splintering obsidian made him pivot, stunner raised. No mistake this time. Before him stood an alien who took his breath away, a towering 9-foot figure with skin like molten gold, her eyes twin orbs of liquid emerald that seemed to pulse with inner fire. Her hair a cascade of crystalline filaments shimmered with each lightning strike. Her attire, a lattice of glowing, translucent fabric, clung to her statuesque form, exuding both divinity and menace. She held a staff crackling with plasma, its tip locked on Elias' chest. "Well, damn," Elias said, lowering his stunner slightly but keeping his stance loose. "Didn't expect a goddess out here." Her emerald eyes narrowed and her voice deep and resonant, perfectly translated, cut through the storm. "You profane the sacred tundra of the Valthar Covenant, human, courageous or foolish?" "Curious, mostly," Elias replied, flashing a crooked grin. "Elias Voss, xenobiologist, you." "I am Priestess Silvara of the Valthar Covenant," she declared, her gaze slicing through him from boots to bloodied temple. "And you are my captive." Elias' grin held, though his mind raced through options. "Priestess, honored, but I usually need a drink before getting chained up." A low hum vibrated from Silvara, possibly amusement. "You jest in the face of judgment, typical human hubris." "Not hubris, just charm, besides you haven't caught me yet." His suit's neural interface was already profiling her staff, estimating its energy output. "Though I'll admit, the company's better than this storm." Silvara's staff didn't waver, but curiosity flickered in her glowing eyes. "You think to sway me with words? I've studied your kind, chaotic, ephemeral, unworthy of the Covenant's notice." "Sounds like your data's stale," Elias quipped, nodding at the worsening storm. "This weather's gonna fry us both. How about we talk somewhere less sparky?" "You dare propose terms to a priestess?" Her tone mixed outrage and intrigue. "Not terms, just survival. We'd both look better, not crispy." A brutal lightning bolt struck nearby, and Elias caught Silvara's subtle flinch. Her golden skin wasn't immune to the cold. The storm was a threat even to her. "Your reasoning holds," Silvara conceded, her staff dipping slightly. "My sanctum is near. Follow as my captive." "Lead on, priestess, though I'm not great with orders." As they navigated the obsidian maze, Elias kept his distance, nodding Silvara's fluid grace despite her towering frame. His suit's sensors clocked her bioenergy higher than any human's, like a living star. "I confess," Silvara said after a silent stretch, "you defy my expectations of human males." "Oh, thought we'd be scrawny, squishy, scared," Elias smirked. "Less resilient. Our techs deem your kind too fragile for alliance." She glanced sideways, her emerald eyes glinting. "Get better books," Elias laughed. "Humans are full of surprises." "So I see," Silvara replied. They reached a sheer obsidian cliff, and at her touch, a hidden portal shimmered open. "Though the idea of bonding with a human male is laughable." "Funny you mentioned bonding," Elias started, but a thunderous explosion overhead cut him off. The ground quaked, obsidian shards raining down. Without thinking, Elias tackled Silvara through the portal as it sealed, trapping them inside. They landed in a tangle, his suited frame pressed against her larger one. For a moment, their eyes locked under the sanctum's pulsing violet lights. "Well," Elias said, still tangled with her, "guess we're stuck debating interspecies chemistry now." The sanctum's violet glow bathed Silvara's golden skin in hypnotic patterns, casting her towering 9-foot frame in an ethereal light that made Elias Voss feel like he'd stumbled into a temple rather than a bunker. The air hummed with the faint vibration of unseen machinery, and the walls, smooth obsidian veined with glowing crystal, pulsed in time with the storm raging outside. Elias disentangled himself from the alien priestess, his synaptic exosuit whirring softly as he stood, brushing off the dust of their unceremonious landing. Silvara rose with a grace that belied her size, her crystalline hair shimmering like a cascade of stars. Her emerald eyes locked onto him, unreadable but intense, as she adjusted her plasma staff, its tip no longer aimed at his chest but still held with purpose. Well, Elias said, keeping his tone light despite the adrenaline still pumping from the near miss with the collapsing entrance. That was one way to make an entrance. You always greet guests with a cave-in, or am I special? Silvara's lips twitched, that low hum vibrating from her throat again, definitely amusement this time. You are reckless human, she said, her resonant voice carrying a faint echo in the sanctum's cavernous chamber. Most would tremble, sealed in with a priestess of the Valthar covenant, yet you jest. Jest survive, same thing, Elias replied, flashing his crooked grin. He tapped his suit's wrist panel, pulling up a holographic HUD that flickered in the ionic interference. Besides, I've been in worse spots, usually with less divine company. Her eyes narrowed, but a spark of curiosity danced in their emerald depths. Flattery will not spare you judgment, Elias Voss, you trespass on sacred ground. Yeah, about that, he said, scanning the chamber. The sanctum was a marvel, obsidian arches curved into a domed ceiling, inlaid with crystal circuits that pulsed like a heartbeat. Consoles lined the walls, their screens dark from the storm's disruption. Didn't exactly plan to crash here. My skiff took a beating from your planet's light show. Any chance this place has a comms array to call for pickup? Silvara glided to a central console, her crystalline robe shimmering with each step. The ion storm has severed our relays, she said, her long fingers dancing over the controls. A faint spark flared, then died, and her shoulders tensed with frustration. We are cut off from the Covenant and your people alike. Elias leaned against a nearby pillar, projecting calm despite the situation. Could be worse, powers holding airs clean. His HUD confirmed stable environmental systems and energy reserves that could last weeks. Nice digs, by the way, very priestess-wise, she turned, towering over him, her presence filling the space like a storm of its own. You remain unconcerned, trapped with a potentially hostile priestess. Potentially hostile's progress from captive, Elias said, his grin widening. And I've got a knack for making friends in tight spots, though I gotta say you're the tallest friend I've ever made. That hum again, closer to a chuckle. Your kind's relentless charm is documented. Is it effective? You tell me, priestess. He met her gaze, his augmented eye whirring softly as it adjusted to the low light. Seems like you're warming up. Don't be absurd, Silvara snapped, but her tone softened as she stepped closer, her crystalline hair brushing the floor. Though you intrigue me, most species quail before the Covenant's might, you do not. Elias straightened, closing the gap slightly, though her height forced him to tilt his head. Maybe they didn't get a proper introduction. My suit's picking up some wild data on Valthar physiology. Want to hear? Her eyes slitted. You dare scan a priestess? Standard fieldwork, he said, unapologetic. Your bioenergy's through the roof like a living fusion core. Your pulses sync to this place's rhythm, and he paused, smirking. Your stress markers spike when you're this close to me. Silvara's golden skin shimmered brighter, a flush that betrayed her composure. Presumptuous human, captive ally, whatever we're calling it, we're stuck here. Elias gestured to the pulsing walls. Might as well make it interesting. The air crackled, not from the storm but from a charged tension between them. Silvara's hand moved to his face, her crystalline nails cool against the gash on his temple. Your species is so fragile, she murmured, her voice dropping to a near whisper. So fleeting compared to ours, yet you show no fear. Should I? Elias' voice was low, challenging. Yes, but she didn't pull away. This is madness, the very notion of communion between our kinds. Elias reached up, his suited hand brushing a glowing filament of her hair. Madness is my specialty, priestess. The kiss was like touching a live plasma coil, her skin thrummed with energy, alien yet intoxicating. Time blurred as they crossed boundaries neither species had dared, the sanctum's violet glow casting their shadows in a dance of defiance. Later, sprawled in a crystalline alcove that served as a rest chamber, Elias traced patterns on Silvara's golden skin, marveling at its subtle luminescence. Still think human bonding's laughable, he teased, his voice thick with smugness. Silvara propped herself up on one elbow, her emerald eyes softer but no less intense. You've altered my perspective on certain matters, Elias Voss. Happy to rewrite your holy texts, he said, grinning, though I'm guessing this isn't standard covenant protocol. This changes nothing, she said, though her conviction wavered. If my enclave finds us, this remains our secret, for now. For now, Elias agreed, but before she could elaborate, a deep rumble shook the sanctum. Alarms blared as crystal circuits flared red, signaling structural breaches. Trouble, Elias muttered, his suit snapping to full power. Silvara was already moving, her priestess's instincts kicking in as she scanned the consoles. The explosion destabilized the tundra's lattice, she said, her voice sharp. The sanctum is compromised. Got an escape route? Elias asked, his HUD mapping the chamber for exits. A sacred conduit to the surface, Silvara replied, striding toward a hidden panel. But we must hurry. The ceiling groaned, shards of obsidian raining down as they reached the panel. Silvara's touch revealed a narrow tunnel, its walls pulsing with the same crystal veins as the sanctum. The climb was brutal, especially for Silvara's towering frame, and Elias led the way, his suit's lamps cutting through the dark. Priestess, he called back, no offense, but you're awfully quiet back there. Focus on climbing, human, she snapped, but her voice trembled, lacking its usual divine authority. She sounded distracted. The tunnel ended at a heavy crystal grate, which Elias forced open with a grunt, his suit's servos whining under the strain. A blast of frigid ozone-laced air hit them as they emerged onto the tundra's surface, the storm now a blinding swirl of violet lightning and black dust. His HUD clocked the temperature at degrees C and the ionic surges were spiking dangerously. But something else caught his attention. Silvara was shivering, her golden skin dimming as she clutched her arms around herself. "This isn't right," she whispered, her crystalline hair whipping in the wind. "Valthar, do not succumb to cold like this." Elias' suit beeped, its neural interface flashing urgent bio readings. "Your vitals are going haywire," he said, guiding her toward a nearby overhang of jagged obsidian. "Talk to me, what's happening?" "Everything is amplified," Silvara said, her voice unsteady. "Colors burn brighter, sensations sharper," and she paused, her emerald eyes glowing unnaturally. "Something grows within me." Elias' suit chimed with a critical alert, its bioscan results stealing his breath. "Silvara, according to this, you're pregnant, a human-Valthar hybrid." Her eyes widened, a mix of awe and disbelief. "Impossible, our biologies should not align." "Tell that to our DNA," Elias said, taking her hand, her crystalline fingers laced with his, warm despite her shivers. "You okay?" A laugh, raw and radiant, escaped her. "Okay. I carry the first hybrid of our kinds. My enclave will convulse, the orthodoxy will demand my exile." She pulled him closer, her free hand tracing the contours of his suit. "Yet I am enthralled by the possibilities." "Not pissed?" Elias asked, his grin returning. "Pissed," Silvara's fangs gleamed faintly. "My people believed ourselves divine above all others. In one night you've proven humans are our equals, perhaps our mates. This changes everything." The overhang offered scant protection as the storm intensified, and Elias' suit pinged new signatures, Valthar ships slicing through the tempest. "Company," he said, readying his stunner. "My enclave," Silvara said, rising to her full height despite her trembling. "They cannot find us together, not yet." "I'm not leaving you," Elias insisted, his augmented eye locking onto hers. "You must." She pressed a glowing crystal shard into his palm, its pulse syncing with his heartbeat. "This will guide you back to me. Find your people. I will contact you when it is safe." Elias hesitated, then pulled her into a fierce kiss, the storm's lightning framing them in violet fire. "This isn't goodbye." "No," Silvara agreed, pushing him toward a narrow ravine. "It is the beginning." He activated his suit's stealth mode and slipped into the storm, the shard pulsing warmly against his chest. Behind him, Silvara's voice rang out, sharp and commanding, berating her guards for their tardiness as they reached the overhang. Elias grinned, the crystal's warmth a promise of reunion, and vanished into the tundra's chaos. Elias Voss trudged through the obsidian tundra, the crystal shard pulsing warmly against his chest as the iron storm raged around him. His synaptic exosuit stealth mode cloaked him in a shimmer of refracted light, bending the violet lightning and black dust to conceal his movements. Shard, a gift from Priestess Silvara, thrummed in sync with his heartbeat, its faint glow guiding him southwest toward the nearest human outpost. His suit's biomonitors kept tabs on Silvara's vitals and those of their improbable child through a connection he couldn't quite explain but didn't question. The readings were stable, though the hybrid's growth rate was accelerating, defying every xenobiological model he'd studied. "Kid's gonna be a handful," he muttered, grinning despite the storm's assault. The tundra was a brutal maze of jagged spires and glowing crystal veins that seemed to hum with the planet's magnetic pulse. His HUD clocked the temperature at minus 40 degrees C, the ionic surges making his suit's neural interface flicker. Elias' augmented left eye scanned for threats, picking up faint signatures of Valthar patrols in the distance. Silvara's enclave was clearly on high alert, likely searching for their missing priestess. He kept low, moving between outcrops, his boots crunching softly on the brittle obsidian. The shard's pulse quickened, and he felt a fleeting sensation, Silvara's presence like a warm current in his mind. "Stay safe, priestess," he whispered, pushing forward. After 2 days of relentless trekking, Elias crested a ridge and spotted Outpost Epsilon, a human colony nestled in a sheltered valley. Prefab domes and kinetic barriers gleamed under the storm's violet glow, but the sight of railgun turrets and patrolling drones set his nerves on edge. The place was gearing up for war. "What the hell?" he muttered, his HUD highlighting heavy weaponry and armored skiffs circling the perimeter. His suit's stealth mode held as he descended, but a patrol's sensors pinged him halfway down. A squad of exosuited troopers materialized, their pulse rifles trained on him. "Identify yourself." A gruff voice barked through the comms. Elias raised his hands, deactivating stealth to reveal his battered suit. "Elias Voss, xenobiologist, TSS Pathfinder, mind pointing those somewhere else?" The squad leader, a stocky woman with a buzzcut and a scarred jaw, lowered her rifle slightly. "Voss, Pathfinder reported your skiff down in Valthar territory 3 days ago. You're supposed to be dead." "Rumors of my demise," Elias quipped, flashing his crooked grin. "Good to see you too, Captain Reyes." Captain Maria Reyes snorted, her weathered face breaking into a reluctant smirk. "You're a walking miracle, Voss. Get inside before you start a diplomatic incident. We've got enough problems." As they escorted him to the command dome, Elias noted the outpost's feverish activity, techs calibrating defense grids, soldiers loading plasma cannons, and analysts hunched over hollow displays. "What's with the war prep?" he asked, keeping his tone casual despite the shard's steady pulse against his chest. Reyes led him into the command hub, a cramped space buzzing with activity. "The Valthar Covenant's gone nuts," she said, pulling up a holomap of the sector. Their priestess Silvara vanished 3 days ago right when you crashed. Their military's mobilizing and our intel's picking up chatter of a schism, some factions calling for blood. Elias kept his expression neutral, though his mind raced. Any word on Silvara? Reyes tapped the console, projecting a grainy intercept of Valthar transmissions. She's back, and here's the kicker: she's pregnant. The Orthodoxy's screaming heresy, claiming it's a human plot, but a chunk of their fleet's rallying behind her, calling it a divine omen. Elias' lips twitched, the shard pulsing in time with his quickening pulse. That's interesting. Interesting? Reyes raised an eyebrow. It's a powder keg, and then there's this bastard. She switched to a new feed, showing a towering Valthar male in ornate spiked armor, his skin a dull bronze and his eyes burning red. High Warden Korath, he's claiming Silvara's been corrupted by human tech, says the pregnancy's proof of biosabotage. He's pushing for a preemptive strike on our colonies. Elias whistled, leaning back. Guy got a flair for drama. Drama that could spark a war, Reyes snapped. We're fortifying Epsilon, but if Korath's fleet moves, we're in deep shit. Before Elias could respond, alarms blared through the hub. A junior officer burst in, her face pale. Captain, multiple ships entering orbit, Valthar royal signatures. Reyes grabbed her command visor, barking orders. Battle stations, all units, Voss, stay out of the way. Wait, Elias said, raising a hand. Let me talk to them first. Are you insane? Reyes glared, but the main holo-display flickered to life before she could argue. Silvara's image filled the screen, her golden skin radiant in her crystalline regalia, her emerald eyes blazing with divine authority. The command hub fell silent, every eye locked on her. People of Epsilon, Silvara declared, her voice resonating through the dome. I am Priestess Silvara of the Valthar Covenant. I seek asylum. The room erupted in chaos, officers shouting, analysts scrambling to verify the signal. Elias stepped forward, ignoring Reyes' glare, the shard pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. Silvara's eyes found him through the screen, a flicker of warmth softening her regal mask. Elias Voss, she said, her tone carrying a hint of amusement, we have matters to discuss. Your Eminence, Elias replied, his grin wide enough to make several techs blink. You're looking well, feeling okay? Better with each moment, Silvara said, her smile sparking murmurs among the human crew, though I find myself missing our scientific discourse. Proximity alarms screamed as new signatures appeared, Valthar warships, their hulls bearing Korath's bronze insignia. His voice boomed across all frequencies, dripping with venom. Priestess, you defile the covenant by consorting with these vermin, your corruption will be cleansed. Corruption? Elias cut in, stepping closer to the display. That's my kid you're slandering, pal. Dead silence. Reyes buried her face in her hands, muttering something about court-martials. Silvara's laugh, rich and resonant, broke the tension, echoing through the hub. Well, my heart, that's one way to announce our bond. Korath's hologram materialized beside Silvara's, his red eyes blazing with rage. You dare claim? Oh, I dare, Elias interrupted, his grin sharp as a blade. Turns out humans and Valthar mix just fine. Your priestess is living proof. This is blasphemy, Korath roared, his bronze skin darkening. The Covenant will not tolerate this abomination. No, Silvara countered, her hand resting on her midsection, her voice cutting like crystal. This is divinity. Our child heralds a new era, one your orthodoxy fears. Half my fleet stands with me, Korath. How many answer to you? New signatures lit up the holo display, Valthar ships dropping from hyperspace, their hulls gleaming with Silvara's golden sigils. Elias leaned closer to the screen, his augmented eye scanning the tactical data. Last chance, Korath, he called. Stand down or find out why humans are so damn stubborn. The standoff held for a heartbeat, then Korath's ships powered up their weapons, their bronze hulls glowing with plasma. So be it, he snarled. Silvara's image flickered, her eyes locking onto Elias. Elias Voss, will you aid me in quelling this rebellion? Elias cracked his knuckles, his suit's neural interface humming. Thought you never asked, Priestess. The Battle of Epsilon erupted like a cosmic firestorm, Valthar and human ships weaving through the ions storm in a deadly dance. Elias stood on the bridge of Silvara's flagship, Divine Spire, his exosuit interfacing with Valthar systems in ways that made their techs gape. The neural link, amplified by the crystal shard, let him coordinate with both fleets, his human ingenuity meshing with Valthar precision. Your tactics are unorthodox, Silvara observed from her crystalline throne, watching him redirect a salvo of plasma bolts into Korath's flank. Humans don't do predictable, Elias replied, his fingers dancing across a hollow panel. Incoming, the Divine Spire shuddered as Korath's flagship unleashed a barrage of ionic torpedoes. Elias' suit calculated an intercept in milliseconds, rerouting the ship's shields to absorb the blast. The Valthar gunners, initially skeptical of the human, now followed his lead, their plasma cannons tearing through Korath's formation. Not bad for a xenobiologist, Elias quipped, dodging a spark from a damaged console. Silvara's emerald eyes gleamed with something like pride, then she gasped, one hand pressing against her midsection. Elias was at her side in an instant, his suit's biomonitors flashing. Talk to me, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. The child, Silvara whispered, her golden skin pulsing erratically. It grows too swiftly. Our combined genetics are accelerating its development. A Valthar medic rushed forward, their crystalline scanner humming. Priestess, the energy readings are unprecedented. The hybrid is progressing in hours, not months. Elias' augmented eye scanned the data, his jaw tightening. Medical bay now, Silvara gripped his arm, her strength surprising even through his suit. The battle can wait, Elias said, scooping her up despite their height difference. Her crystalline hair brushed his face as he carried her from the bridge, barking orders to her chief adjutant. You've got command, keep Korath pinned, but don't kill him, he's more useful alive. The adjutant, a wiry Valthar with silver skin, bowed deeply. As you command, Lord Voss. Elias snorted as he carried Silvara down the corridor. Lord, we'll sort titles later, right now I've got a date with a delivery room. Silvara's laugh turned into a groan as another contraction hit, the ship's lights flickering in sync with her bioenergy. You're enjoying this too much, she muttered, her head resting against his shoulder. Says the priestess who scoffed at human mating, Elias teased, though his voice softened. I'm not laughing now. No, she agreed, her emerald eyes meeting his, but our child will shake the stars. The medical bay was a blend of human and Valthar tech, sterile white panels alongside glowing crystal interfaces. The mixed team of medics worked frantically, their scanners registering energy spikes that made the air hum. Elias held Silvara's hand as she lay on a crystalline slab, her golden skin glowing brighter with each contraction. The crystal shard pulsed in his pocket, its energy linking him to her and their child in ways his science couldn't explain. You know, Elias said, brushing a filament of her hair aside, this isn't how I plan to spend my fieldwork. Silvara's smile was tired but radiant. When this is over, I'll make you regret every quip. Promise, he asked, grinning. Her response was cut off by a surge of energy that made every light in the bay flicker. The crystal shard flared, its glow merging with Silvara as the medics shouted readings. The child's bioenergy is rewriting our systems, one cried. Elias' suit beeped, its neural interface struggling to process the data. This is gonna be one hell of a kid, he muttered, squeezing Silvara's hand. The medical bay of the divine spire thrummed with an otherworldly energy, its crystalline interfaces pulsing in sync with Silvara's golden glow. The air crackled with static, as if the very fabric of reality was straining under the weight of what was unfolding. Elias Voss stood by the crystalline slab, gripping Silvara's hand, his synaptic exosuit's neural interface flashing wildly as it tried to process the unprecedented bioreadings from her and their unborn child. The Valthar medics, their silver skin glinting under the bay's violet lights, worked alongside human doctors in a frenzy, their scanners emitting high-pitched whines as they registered energy spikes that defied every known model. The crystal shard in Elias' pocket burned hot, its pulse merging with Silvara's, linking them in a way that felt both scientific and mystical. Silvara's emerald eyes, glowing brighter than ever, locked onto his, a mix of determination and vulnerability in their depths. This child, she whispered, her voice strained as another contraction rippled through her, making the bay's lights flicker. It is rewriting everything. No kidding, Elias said, his crooked grin steady despite the chaos. His augmented left eye scanned the data streaming across his HUD, bioenergy levels off the charts, cellular growth rates that made his xenobiological training scream impossible. Our kid's already hacking your ship's systems, gotta say I'm impressed. Silvara's laugh was cut short by a sharp gasp, her golden skin flaring with luminescent patterns that danced like solar flares. The lead Valthar medic, a lanky figure with translucent eyes, leaned in, their scanner trembling. Priestess, the hybrid's development is accelerating beyond comprehension. It's interfacing with our tech, rewriting protocols in real time. Elias' suit beeped urgently, confirming the medic's words. The child's bioenergy wasn't just growing, it was evolving, sending out pulses that synced with the divine spire's crystal circuits. Consoles sparked, screens flickered with unreadable glyphs, and the ship's gravity fluctuated, making Elias brace against the slab. Okay, kid, he muttered, squeezing Silvara's hand, let's not crash mommy's flagship before you're born. Elias, Silvara said, her voice a mix of amusement and pain, your humor is infuriating. Part of my charm, he shot back, brushing a crystalline filament of her hair from her sweat-slicked forehead. You're doing great, Priestess, just hang in there. The human doctor, a wiry woman with gray streaks in her hair, adjusted a portable scanner, her face pale but focused. Dr. Voss, the fetal readings are unlike anything in our database. The hybrid's DNA is fusing human and Valthar markers, creating something new. We're seeing neural complexity that rivals AI cores. Sounds like our kid's gonna be a genius, Elias said, though his chest tightened. The implications were staggering, a child who could bridge species, rewrite tech, maybe even reshape their worlds. He glanced at Silvara, her towering form somehow fragile in this moment. You sure you're okay? Her fangs gleamed in a faint smile. I am divine, Elias Voss, and I am terrified. Join the club, he said softly, his thumb tracing circles on her hand. We've got this. The bay shook as an explosion rocked the divine spire, a reminder of the battle raging outside. Elias' HUD flashed with tactical updates. Korath's bronze-hulled warships were hammering Silvara's fleet, their ionic torpedoes cutting through the ion storm with ruthless precision. The human contingent from Outpost Epsilon was holding the line, but barely, their skiffs weaving desperate patterns to counter the Valthar's superior firepower. Elias had left Silvara's adjutant in command, but Korath's forces were relentless, driven by fanatical zeal to purge the abomination they believed Silvara carried. Status report, Elias barked into his comms, his suit relaying to the bridge. The adjutant's voice crackled back, strained but steady. Lord Voss, Korath's flagship has breached our outer defenses. They're attempting to board. We're holding, but we need you. Elias' jaw clenched. I'm not leaving her, he said, glancing at Silvara, her eyes, though pained, burned with resolve. Go, she said, her voice cutting through the bay's hum. Protect our child. Not happening, Elias replied, his tone firm. You're not facing this alone. Silvara's hand tightened on his, her crystalline nails digging into his suit. Elias, Korath will not stop if he reaches this bay, she paused, her emerald eyes flickering with fear. He will kill our child. The shard in his pocket flared, and Elias felt a surge of her emotions, fierce protectiveness, unshakable love, and a priestess's unyielding will. He nodded, his grin replaced by a steely determination. Fine, but I'm not going far. He pressed the shard into her hand, its glow intensifying. Keep this, it's our link. She clutched it, her golden skin pulsing in time with the crystal. Be swift, my heart. Elias kissed her fiercely, the taste of ozone and her alien warmth lingering as he pulled away. Hold that thought, priestess, I've got a warden to smack down. The corridor outside the medical bay was a war zone. Valthar loyalists in crystalline armor clashed with Korath's bronze-clad zealots, plasma bolts and ionic blades lighting up the obsidian halls. Elias' suit hummed as he activated its combat protocols, the neural interface amplifying his reflexes. He dove behind a bulkhead as a plasma burst scorched the wall, his stunner snapping up to drop a zealot with a precise pulse to the chest. Attention, Divine Spire crew, he broadcast shipwide, his voice cutting through the chaos. This is Elias Voss. We've got uninvited guests trying to crash a very special delivery. Let's show them some human hospitality. The response was immediate. Human Marines from Epsilon, integrated into Silvara's crew, rallied alongside Valthar warriors, their combined tactics catching Korath's forces off guard. Elias moved like a shadow, his suit's stealth mode flickering as he planted micro-explosives along the corridor. The charges weren't lethal, just enough to herd the zealots into a choke point. Come on, you bronze-plated fanatics, he muttered, detonating the first set. The blast sent Korath's troops scrambling right into a crossfire from the loyalists. Impressive, a Valthar officer called, their silver skin glinting as they fired a plasma rifle. Your tactics are chaotic, Lord Voss. Chaos is my middle name, Elias quipped, ducking a blade that sang with ionic energy. The crystal shard pulsed, and he felt Silvara's presence, stronger now, laced with urgency. The child was coming, and fast. The ship shuddered again, and Elias' HUD flashed a warning. Korath himself was leading a strike team toward the medical bay via a secondary conduit. Perfect, Elias growled, sprinting toward the access shaft, right where I want him. He reached the conduit just as Korath burst through, a towering figure in spiked bronze armor, his red eyes burning with righteous fury. His ionic blade hummed, crackling with enough power to cut through Elias' suit like paper. Stand aside, human, Korath roared, his voice shaking the walls. This ends now. Elias raised his stunner, his suit's neural link boosting his speed. Actually, I think this is where I'm supposed to be. Want to know why? Your primitive defiance is futile, Korath snarled, advancing. The abomination must not be born. Because, Elias continued, his grin sharp as he activated another set of charges, my kid about to make one hell of an entrance. The medical bay doors exploded inward in a cascade of violet light, energy surging through the corridor like a tidal wave of starfear. Elias felt it first through the shard's link, a new consciousness raw and powerful, blending human adaptability with Valthar divinity. The crystal shattered in Silvara's hand, its energy merging with the phenomenon, and every system in the corridor went haywire, lights flaring, consoles rebooting, Korath's armor sparking as its circuits fried. When the light faded, Korath stood frozen, his ionic blade dead in his hand. Elias spun toward the bay where Silvara cradled their child, a perfect fusion of human and Valthar. The infant glowed with an inner radiance, its skin a shimmering blend of gold and human tan, its eyes shifting between Elias' gray and Silvara's emerald. Every device in the bay hummed in sync with its presence, screens displaying new patterns that baffled the medics. Well, Elias said, stepping into the bay, his voice soft with awe, that's definitely got my smirk. The child cooed and the ship's systems pulsed in response, upgrading themselves in real time. Silvara, exhausted but radiant, looked up at Elias, her smile triumphant. This is impossible. You keep saying that word, Elias teased, quoting her earlier jest. I don't think it means what you think it means. Korath staggered into the bay, his armor sparking, his red eyes wide with disbelief. This cannot be. Oh, it be, Elias said, stepping protectively in front of Silvara and their child. Meet the future warden, names pending, but I'm leaning towards something badass. Silvara's voice cut through the stunned silence, regal despite her fatigue. This is Elisra, born of the storm and the stars. She's the Covenant's new divine. The ship's comms activated without input, broadcasting Elisra's image across all frequencies, human and Valthar alike. Her hybrid nature was undeniable, her presence a beacon that silenced both fleets. Korath dropped to one knee, his voice rough with emotion. Priestess, I was wrong. Yes, Silvara said, her emerald eyes blazing, but you may yet redeem yourself. Elisra is not the end of Valthar purity, but the dawn of a greater unity. Elias moved to her side, marveling at their daughter's glowing features. So about those titles we were dodging early. Don't push it, Voss, Silvara said, but her smile betrayed her. Elisra burbled, and the bay's lights pulsed again, drawing gasps from the medics. The battle outside dwindled as Korath's forces wavered, their zeal shaken by the broadcast. Silvara's loyalists pressed their advantage, and human skiffs capitalized on the chaos, disabling Korath's flagship with surgical strikes. Elias' HUD showed the tide turning, but his focus remained on Silvara and Elisra. You know, he said, brushing a finger along Elisra's tiny, glowing hand, we still need to figure out what to call this moment. Silvara looked at their child, her expression softening. In Valthar tradition, children of prophecy are named for their birth's significance. And this one, Elias asked, his grin returning. The dawn of union, Silvara said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. Elisra is our bridge. 3 months later, Elias adjusted the sleek diplomatic tunic tailored to blend human functionality with Valthar aesthetics, its obsidian fabric shimmering under the lights of their private quarters aboard the Divine Spire. The tunic felt alien compared to his exosuit, but the upcoming summit demanded a different kind of armor. He caught his reflection in a crystalline panel, scarred face, gray eyes, one augmented, and a stubborn smirk that hadn't faded despite the galaxy's best efforts. Struggling with the clasps my heart, Silvara's resonant voice came from the doorway, laced with amusement. She stood in her full regalia, a vision of golden skin and crystalline hair, Elisra cradled in one arm. Their daughter at 3 months was already a marvel, her growth outpacing human norms but slower than Valthar, her skin a perfect blend of Elias' tan and Silvara's gold, her eyes flickering between gray and emerald. She babbled and the room's lights pulsed, a tiny light show that made Elias chuckle. These are designed for giants, he grumbled, fumbling with the tunic's intricate fastenings. You try looking dignified when your clothes fight back. Silvara glided forward, her free hand expertly adjusting his collar. Such complaints from the man who navigated my sanctum's defenses with ease, she teased, her emerald eyes sparkling. Though I recall you had no trouble with other complexities. Elias grinned, winking at her. That was different, I was highly motivated. Elisra giggled, and a nearby console flickered, displaying a holographic replay of Elias' crash landing, thankfully edited to avoid their more private moments. She's got your sense of drama, Elias said, taking Elisra from Silvara's arms. The infant's touch sent a pulse through his suit's neural link, syncing with her bioenergy in ways that still baffled him. Summit begins soon, Silvara reminded him, her tone shifting to priestess mode. Are you ready to upend the orthodoxy again? Me, you're the one who told the Valthar Council human males are surprisingly versatile, Elias shot back, raising an eyebrow. Pretty sure you scandalized half your suitors. Her laugh sent shivers down his spine, as potent now as it was in the sanctum. I spoke only truth. Besides, the surge in human-Valthar pairing requests suggests our union has inspired. Yeah, about that, Elias said, bouncing Elisra gently. Did you have to tell the entire covenant about my stamina? I'm getting knowing looks from your guards. Would you prefer I lied? Silvara asked, her fangs gleaming mischievously. A diplomatic aide's voice crackled through the intercom, carefully timed to avoid interrupting in person, a lesson learned after one too many aides walked in on their discussions. Priestess, Lord Voss, the delegates are arriving. Time to face the galaxy, Elias said, handing Elisra back to Silvara. Ready to show them what the future looks like. With you, Silvara replied, her hand lingering on his shoulder always. The grand diplomatic chamber of the Divine Spire was a masterpiece of Valthar design, obsidian walls inlaid with crystal circuits that pulsed like a living organism, a domed ceiling reflecting the iron storm outside in shimmering patterns. The mixed crew of humans and Valthar worked seamlessly, a sight that still drew stares from the arriving delegates. Elias noted the reactions, admiring glances from Valthar females, curious looks from human diplomats, and barely concealed envy from a few bronze-clad Valthar nobles who hadn't warmed to the new reality. Korath, now a reluctant ally after his defeat, stood at attention near the throne, his red eyes fixed on the crowd. His conversion had been grudging but genuine, spurred by Elisra's undeniable power. Elias caught his eye and nodded, earning a stiff bow in return. Progress, Elias muttered to Silvara. Indeed, she replied, ascending the crystalline throne with Elisra in her arms. Representatives of Earth and the Valthar Covenant, she began, her voice filling the chamber with divine authority, we gather to forge an alliance not of war or necessity but of unity. Elias stepped forward, his diplomatic tunic feeling less awkward now. And let's be clear, he added, his smirk drawing chuckles, this unity's more than politics, it's personal. He gestured to Elisra, who babbled and sparked a holographic display of the tundra, earning gasps. Silvara's eyes sparkled with mischief. Our compatibility has proven remarkable, as some of you may have heard. The crowd erupted in murmurs, some shocked, some amused. In the 3 months since Elisra's birth, human-Valthar pairings had surged, each producing hybrids with unique abilities, enhanced neural interfaces, accelerated learning, and genetic stability that silenced the purists. The old myths about human weakness are done, a Valthar noble declared, their silver skin gleaming. The Covenant evolves. Elias raised an eyebrow at Silvara. Should I be worried about how many of your people are verifying that? Jealous my heart. She teased, her hand brushing his arm, making his tunic feel suddenly too warm. Not a chance, he said, his grin wicked. Though I'm pretty sure I set the bar high. The chamber laughed, the tension breaking. Elisra chose that moment to project a holo of her parents' first meeting, a sanitized version that still drew blushes. Our daughter has her father's flair, Silvara said, recovering smoothly, and her mother's divinity. The diplomatic talks that followed were unlike any in galactic history. Human pragmatism clashed and blended with Valthar mysticism, forging agreements that reshaped trade, tech, and borders. Elisra, alternating between human giggles and Valthar chants, became a symbol of what was possible, a child who could rewrite systems with a thought, born of two species daring to defy the impossible. During a recess, Elias leaned close to Silvara, his voice low. When I crashed on your planet, I didn't expect to rewrite the galaxy. You expected to survive the storm, she replied, her crystalline nails tracing his jaw. Instead, you ignited a new one. Korath approached, his bronze armor clanking, a stack of hollow tablets in hand. He stopped short at their intimacy, his red eyes narrowing. Priestess Lord Voss, the genetic council's findings are in. Let me guess, Elias said unfazed. More proof we're awesome together. Korath's jaw twitched, but he pressed on. The success of human-Valthar pairings correlates with emotional resonance. Fancy term for chemistry, Silvara said, her smile making Korath visibly struggle to maintain composure. Elisra burbled, sparking another light show that drew every eye. Her powers grew daily, a blend of human adaptability and Valthar energy that promised a future neither species could predict. To think, Silvara murmured, all this because you crashed on my tundra. Best crash ever, Elias said, wrapping an arm around her waist or as high as he could reach. Though I'm pretty sure you were checking me out before you called me a captive. I was assessing a threat, she said, her tone playful. Is that what we're calling it now? Their banter was cut short by more delegates, eager to expand human-Valthar alliances to their systems. The future gleamed bright, charged with the kind of chemistry that had already changed the stars. The grand diplomatic chamber of the divine spire hummed with a new energy, its obsidian walls and crystalline circuits pulsing in sync with the presence of Elisra, the hybrid child who had become the galaxy's most improbable beacon. A year had passed since her birth, and the ripples of that moment had reshaped the stars. Elias Voss stood beside Priestess Silvara, his diplomatic tunic now a familiar second skin, its obsidian fabric catching the violet glow of the chamber. His augmented left eye scanned the crowd, human diplomats in sleek uniforms, Valthar nobles in shimmering robes, and hybrid emissaries whose glowing skin marked them as the next generation of a united cosmos. Elisra, now a toddler with a mischievous grin that mirrored Elias and eyes that flickered between gray and emerald, toddled between them, her tiny hands sparking hollow displays with a giggle. Careful, kiddo, Elias said, scooping her up as a nearby console projected a chaotic swirl of stars, drawing gasps from the delegates. You're gonna rewrite the galactic map before lunch. Silvara's resonant laugh filled the chamber, her golden skin radiant in her priestess regalia. She takes after her father's penchant for disruption, she teased, her crystalline hair cascading like a starfield, though I suspect her mother's divinity guides her hand. Divinity, huh? Elias shot back, winking. Pretty sure that's just my charm rubbing off. Elisra babbled, and the chamber's lights pulsed, dimming and brightening in a playful rhythm that made even the stoic Valthar nobles smile. Her powers had grown exponentially, her hybrid genetics blending human adaptability with Valthar bioenergy, allowing her to interface with technology in ways that baffled both species' scientists. She could rewrite code with a thought, sync with crystal circuits across light years, and even influence emotions, calming tensions with a coup or sparking awe with a wave. The human-Valthar alliance, once a fragile truce, had solidified into a galactic coalition, with Outpost Epsilon now a thriving hub of cross-species innovation. The past year had been a whirlwind. The Battle of Epsilon had ended with Korath's surrender, his bronze-clad zealots cowed by Elisra's birth and the undeniable proof of her power. The Valthar Covenant, once rigid in its orthodoxy, had fractured and reformed, with Silvara's faction, bolstered by hybrid births gaining dominance. Human colonies, initially wary, now embraced the partnership, their tech advancing by leaps thanks to Valthar crystal engineering. Elias, no longer just a xenobiologist but a de facto ambassador, had navigated countless summits, his quick wit and stubborn courage earning respect even from those who'd once scoffed at humans. But not all was peaceful. Pockets of resistance lingered, Valthar purists who viewed hybrids as abominations and human skeptics who feared the alliance's rapid evolution. Elias' HUD pinged daily with reports of sabotage, whispered conspiracies, and rogue factions stirring unrest. The crystal shard, now embedded in his suit's neural interface, kept him linked to Silvara and Elisra, its pulse a constant reminder of the stakes. We've got a galaxy to hold together, he muttered, adjusting Elisra in his arms as a new delegate approached, a human governor with a cautious smile. Lord Voss, Priestess Silvara, the governor said, bowing slightly, your daughter's abilities are remarkable. Our colony's proposing a joint research initiative to study hybrid genetics. Could be a game changer. Game changer's one word for it, Elias replied, his grin sharp. Just don't expect her to sit still for your scans. She's got places to be. Elisra giggled, sparking a hollow of the governor's face, slightly distorted with a comical mustache. The chamber erupted in laughter, and Silvara's emerald eyes sparkled with mischief. She has her father's humor, she said, smoothing Elisra's golden-tan curls. But we welcome collaboration. Our daughter is proof of what's possible. The governor nodded, retreating with a mix of awe and unease. Elias leaned close to Silvara, his voice low. Think they're ready for what she'll do when she hits puberty. Let's survive her toddler years first, Silvara quipped, her crystalline nails brushing his arm, sending a familiar shiver through him. Though I suspect you'll enjoy the chaos. Born for it, he said, winking. Their banter was interrupted by a sharp beep from his suit, a priority alert from Outpost Epsilon. He tapped the neural interface, and Captain Maria Reyes' scarred face appeared on a private holo. Voss, we've got trouble, Reyes said, her voice tight. Rogue Valthar faction hit one of our outer relays. They're broadcasting anti-hybrid propaganda and they've got tech we've never seen, looks like modified crystal weapons. Elias' jaw clenched, the shard pulsing in warning. Korath, no, he's still playing nice, Reyes replied. This is someone new, calling themselves the Obsidian Veil. They're demanding Silvara step down and Elisra be contained. Silvara's expression darkened, her golden skin flaring. Contained, my daughter is no threat to be caged. Tell that to their plasma cannons, Reyes said. They're massing near the tundra's edge. We need you both here now. Elias exchanged a glance with Silvara, her emerald eyes blazing with a priestess's fury. We're coming, he said, cutting the feed. He handed Elisra to a trusted Valthar aide, a silver-skinned female who bowed deeply. Keep her safe, he told her, his tone leaving no room for debate. The divine spire cut through the ion storm with eerie grace, its crystalline hull reflecting the violet lightning as it descended toward outpost Epsilon. Elias stood on the bridge, his exosuit back in place, its neural link humming as he synced with the ship's systems. Silvara, in her battle regalia, radiated divine authority, her plasma staff crackling at her side. The shard's connection kept them in sync, their emotions a shared current of resolve and protectiveness. Obsidian Veil, Silvara said, her voice low as she studied the tactical hollow. A splinter group from the old orthodoxy led by Archon Veil. He was exiled for rejecting my reforms. Sounds like a charmer, Elias said, his augmented eye scanning the enemy fleet's sleek obsidian-hulled ships with crystal weapons that pulsed erratically. Those weapons are juiced up, my suit's picking up unstable energy signatures, they're playing with fire. Then we extinguish it, Silvara said, her fangs gleaming. Elisra's future depends on it. The outpost came into view, its domes bristling with railguns and kinetic barriers. Human skiffs darted through the storm, trading fire with the Veil's ships. Elias took the helm, his suit's neural link letting him outmaneuver the enemy's erratic salvos. Hold on, Priestess, he said, banking the divine spire through a lightning strike. This is gonna get bumpy. The battle was chaos incarnate. The Veil's weapons unleashed torrents of crystal energy, each shot destabilizing the outpost's defenses. Elias' tactics, unpredictable and human, kept the divine spire one step ahead, redirecting enemy fire into their own ranks. Silvara's staff flared, amplifying the ship's shields with her bioenergy, a feat that left the Valthar crew in awe. You're stealing my thunder, Elias quipped, dodging a plasma beam. You'll survive, she shot back, her smile fierce. Focus on not crashing again. The shard pulsed and Elias felt Elisra's presence, safe but agitated, her energy reaching out even from the divine spire's nursery. She knows we're fighting, he said, his voice tight. We need to end this fast. The Veil's flagship, a jagged monstrosity called Ebon Wrath, loomed ahead, its weapons targeting the outpost's core reactor. Elias HUD flagged Archon Veil's biosignature aboard, a Valthar male with jet-black skin and eyes like molten amber. Time to meet the boss, Elias said, plotting an intercept course. Silvara nodded, her staff glowing brighter. Veil will answer for his treason. The divine spire breached the Ebon Wrath's defenses, boarding pods slamming into its hull. Elias led the assault, his suit stealth mode flickering as he carved through Veil's soldiers with precise stunner shots. Silvara followed, her plasma staff a whirlwind of violet fire, each strike sending enemies reeling. They reached the command deck where Veil stood, his amber eyes burning with fanaticism. You've defiled the Covenant, Veil roared, raising a crystal lance that crackled with unstable energy. Your spawn will unravel our divinity. Elias dodged a lance strike, the energy scorching his suit's shoulder. Buddy, your divinity's looking pretty outdated, he said, planting a micro-explosive at Veil's feet. The blast staggered the Archon, giving Silvara an opening. Her staff met his lance, their energies clashing in a burst that shook the deck. You cannot stop the future, Silvara said, her voice resonating with divine power. Elisra is our strength, not our ruin. The shard flared and Elias felt Elisra's presence surge, her energy flooding the Ebon Wrath systems. Consoles sparked, weapons powered down, and Veil's lance flickered out. The Archon staggered, his amber eyes wide with disbelief. What is this? That's my daughter, Elias said, his grin sharp as he leveled his stunner. And she's done playing. Veil's forces surrendered as Elisra's influence spread, her hybrid power pacifying the Veil's tech and minds alike. The battle ended in a wave of silence, the iron storm outside calming as if in reverence. Elias and Silvara stood over Veil, who knelt, his defiance broken. The Covenant evolves, he whispered, echoing Silvara's words from months ago. Back on the divine spire, Elias cradled Elisra, her glowing skin warm against his chest. Silvara leaned against him, her crystalline hair brushing his shoulder. She's more powerful than we imagine, Silvara said, her voice soft with awe. Yeah, Elias agreed, watching Elisra spark a tiny hollow of the tundra. But she's got your heart and my stubbornness, we'll keep her grounded. The galaxy shifted in the years that followed. The human-Valthar alliance grew, with hybrid children, each unique in their abilities, becoming ambassadors of a new era. Outpost Epsilon expanded into a bustling metropolis, its domes now laced with crystal circuits that hummed with Elisra's influence. Elias and Silvara, now partners in every sense, balanced diplomacy with parenting, their bond a beacon for others. Elisra at 5 could reshape entire systems with a thought, but her favorite trick was making her father's suit dance during summits, much to the delight of delegates. One evening, as the iron storm painted the tundra in violet hues, Elias and Silvara stood on a balcony overlooking the outpost, Elisra asleep in their quarters. Didn't think crashing here would lead to this, Elias said, his arm around Silvara's waist or as high as he could reach. You expected to survive, she replied, her emerald eyes glinting. Instead, you forge a family and a future. Best crash landing ever, he said, pulling her close. Her laugh echoed across the tundra, a sound that promised more storms and more stars to come.